And finally, the full Collingwood fixture reveal for 2025 has come upon us, and we can dive into it and see how bad it really is or how good it is. We already have an idea of where the fixture is at least the first portion of the year, and with GWS in the opening round, we've got Sydney in the gather round, we've got Thursday night against Carlton, against all previous finalists from this season that's just gone past. So it's a difficult start. But let's have a look at the times, days, who we're versing later in the year. It's the full fixture reveal, barring the last 7 or 8 rounds where they have the opposition sorted, but they don't have the times, days, and locations yet. So how will Collingwood start the season? They're going to head to Sydney versus GWS at Energy Stadium after that Green Day concert, which everybody's talking about, which will be a good matchup. Or interesting matchup because it's the first game Perryman plays against his old side, and with all the dramas in the off season with their Mad Monday, maybe that plays into the narrative a bit. Will be interesting. And then straight after that, we see Dan Houston play against his old team, Port Adelaide, and Port Adelaide were a side that didn't want to let go of Houston, and Houston wanted to leave, so they had to cut ties and settle with what they got. I don't think Port are overly excited or ecstatic about the return they got for a two-time All-Australian. I think they felt like maybe they got underdone a little bit, or they just felt like they deserved more from the trade, which could be a fair argument, right? So we get 3 Thursday night thrillers, which are in the first half of the draw, so the rest are yet to be announced. We get that home game against Carlton on Thursday night. We get Easter Thursday against the Lions at the Gabba. That will be a cracker of a match. And then we have round 9 against Freo at Optus Stadium on a Thursday night. So, wow. Some difficult Thursday night games. But what do you guys think about these extra allotment of Thursday night fixtures? I personally am a fan. I feel like the longer the round can be throughout the week means there's more footy throughout the week. So, logistically, to me, that is convenient for my work week. I look at when I'm in the season, I look at Wednesday as my my Thursday, and my Thursday is my Friday when there's footy on. That's just the way it is. Friday nights, Collingwood can look to 4 Friday night games along with 5 Saturday slots. When are the buys? So the first one will be in round 3 after opening round 1-2. So we get 3 games, 6-day breaks between all of them. Shock. And then we get the bye. And then later in the season, round 14, which would be a similar time to when we fell into a demise after our second bye this year. So this number scares me. The round 3 bye comes after opening round, where all 8 participating teams receive a bye game prior to gather round to even out the games played ledger. Fair enough. 2 weeks later, Collingwood will host Essendon in the Anzac Day match at the MCG. It will be the 30th anniversary of the game, where the clubs come together to raise awareness and donations for the RSL. I didn't know it was going to be the 30th anniversary for this game. That would mean it started in 1994. How's that for quick maths? So that will be good. Just another big matchup. What I'm noticing is a lot of teams are trying to get their prime time, their showcase, their fundraiser games, milestone games against Collingwood. Western Bulldogs is one of them this year. I think they're celebrating their 100th year against us at the G. So, look, we can complain and say, well, this fixture, they've done us dirty. They've given us difficult teams. And we can talk about who we double up against. We double up against the Lions, Hawthorn, Carlton, Fremantle, Melbourne, and Adelaide Crows twice, who are all teams that could be playing finals. So the fixture is ridiculously tough. It's not going to be easy. My argument, looking at it from a glass half full perspective, I would say it's handy to have these difficult games consistently throughout the year because it conditions you for the finals. I think about those last 4 games in 2024. We played Sydney, Brisbane, Carlton. Who else did we play? Melbourne. I think these games are great precursors going into the final. So you've got to beat the best if you want to be the best, okay? So that's the way I look at it, and there's no other way around it. When you are the biggest team in the country, the biggest fan base, you're going to have to somewhat deal with what comes with the fame and the status. And this is what it is. That's the only way to look at it. We can complain, but what's it worth? Or we could say, well, we know what it's like to be a part of an opening round now. We know what it's like to have a bye early in the season. We should have no excuses now. We should be able to adapt accordingly and organise the way we go about these leading into these games. We know it. We have a sample size. Last year we didn't have that, so now we do. We've got a team who had never come off, most players in that team had never won a premiership and gone into the next year as the reigning premiers. Now we do. So you see where I'm coming from with that? Clashes to watch out for. We already mentioned Perryman and GWS, Houston and Port, and then we mentioned Carlton and Collingwood. Let's have a look at the full fixture. All right, allow. So we go here, GWS versus Collingwood on a Sunday, which is before Labor Day in Canberra. So they're going to try and get big numbers to that game. 6 days later, on the 15th of March, we have Port Adelaide at the G on a Saturday night at 7:35. The following Friday, 6 days later, we verse the Doggies at 7:40 p.m. Friday night. And then we get that bye, as we mentioned. Straight into that Thursday night blockbuster, and then another difficult game. Wow, this is tough. Carlton, Sydney, Brisbane is the Easter Thursday clash. Straight into the Anzac Day, which is a Friday. Falls on a Friday, okay. Falls on a Friday, 3:20 p.m. And so a long weekend, that's nice. That's convenient with the Friday going to Saturday, Sunday. And then we have Geelong on a Saturday night at the G. 5 days later, is that 5 days? Yeah, 5 days later we have Fremantle in Perth. So you're going to have to travel pretty early there, shortly after that Geelong game, really. Adelaide and their new logo, it's okay. What are your thoughts? Saturday, May 17th, so we get a 9-day break, which will be much needed for sure after that travel from Perth. North Melbourne on a Saturday night. Wow, interesting fixture. Usually that's your Sunday 1:10 or 3:20, but to get a Saturday night North versus Collingwood at Marvel Stadium, okay. I mean, who knows, maybe there is a world where North could be relatively competitive this year, maybe aiming for 8 to 10 wins, who knows. But then this is a massive. When was the last time we saw a Collingwood Hawthorn on a Friday night? That's mouth-watering. And then we get another MCG game, Melbourne's home game. That will be Queen's birthday. And then we get the bye. And then we come up against, this is where I hope it gets a bit easier, quote unquote. There's no easy games in AFL anymore, in my opinion. Saturday, June 21st, that's roughly an 11, 12-day break, something like that. We verse St Kilda at Marvel, play one of our home games there. And then dates and time to be confirmed for these. So we've played West Coast, we've played Carlton, Gold Coast, Fremantle, Richmond, Brisbane, Hawks, Adelaide, Melbourne. Okay. Man, tough. So we don't get to play Richmond twice. We don't get to play North Melbourne twice. Who else? We don't get to play West Coast twice. We don't get to play Gold Coast twice. We don't get to play St Kilda twice. And yeah, that's unfortunate, isn't it? What do you do? Well, let's look at, what was the 2024? How does that stack up against it? 6-day breaks in the first 3 games. So we played 4 games before. We had 4 games before a bye last year. Let's have a look. So if we go back to 25, it's the same thing, isn't it? 1, 2. Okay, so we only have to play 3 games this time. So they've adjusted that, which is interesting, which is good. Thank goodness. They've made some adjustments. Just trying to see, we got North once there, Essendon twice, Gold Coast once there, Richmond once. Yeah, what was the let me remind myself, guys, let's have a look at the ladder, because I just want to see 2024 what we're dealing with. So we versed Carlton early, Bulldogs early, Brisbane early, GWS early, Geelong, Port, Sydney. Ridiculous. Yeah, and we don't get to verse any of these two teams twice. We verse Adelaide twice and Melbourne twice. But these are 2 teams that probably just had an unders year. So it's tough. But the way I look at it is, it is what it is. We've got to deal with it. We know the fixtures. We've dealt with it before. We're used to playing in all these blockbuster clashes with big games that have names attached to it and titles attached to it and sentiment and meaning and everything else. So just only one way from here, and just play every week as it is and just win. And let's try and push for a flag in 2025. Go Pies.